Man, I don't know why YouTube thinks my content is hate speech. Like, how can it be called hate speech when I loved saying it? Today we're looking at a term that's been bothering me in recent times. Hate speech. Hate speech by definition is speech directed to express prejudice against a particular group. Now maybe I'm just crazy, but I believe there should be no restriction on hate speech. Hate speech is covered under the First Amendment, so why is there such a huge movement to limit what people can say? Well, let's start simple. What actually counts as hate speech? Well, for starters, fucking anything can be considered hate speech if you're a big enough pussy. It's kinda like that whole let people enjoy things bullshit. It's purely based off feelings without any significant backing. In the modern age, hate speech can range from dropping the hard R to accidentally fucking up someone's make-believe pronouns. You can't say gay anymore because it's offensive to homosexuals. That's hate speech right there. What, so does that mean we can't say retard anymore because it'll be offensive to Democrats? Like, it's a whole fucking spectrum, and everyone who's taking offense is on the fucking spectrum. This is why I try to avoid platforms like Twitter or Instagram, because they're full of fucking morons who think having an opposing opinion is hate speech. And also because Mark Zuckerberg can suck a dick. I ain't giving my private information, you reptilian bitch. But that aside, this is my biggest issue with this newfound classification of hate speech. Anything simply opposing a minority group or a quote-unquote protected group is off limits and can be considered hate speech, which means these fuckers can abuse this system to their benefit. And then it turns into a huge circle jerk of retards who have everyone opposing them banned off the platform. You can use people like Andrew Tate, Kanye West, or even Donald Trump as an example. And before I hear it in the comments, I'll say it now. I fucking hate politicians. If I had a list for groups of people I hated, politicians are definitely a top 5. I don't hear people say this enough, so I'll say it now. Politicians are glorified actors meant to butter you up and garner your support while brainwashing you with their shitty ideas. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to vote for the party which best resembles your worldviews, but to blindly listen to a politician as if it were the fucking gospel is beyond retarded. That being said, I still don't believe they should be censored like everyone else in this shitty country, and for legal reasons, we'll leave it at that. Now, I'm not defending anything these people say, but the way I see it, you shouldn't just pick and choose who gets to speak based on their beliefs. And that's exactly what this so-called hate speech does. Like, you can say kill all men, but kill all women? No, that's too far. Talk about white people? That's fine, but black people? No, they're a minority, you're not allowed to talk about them. No bringing up those crime statistics. Same goes with gays and trans. Straight and cis people are completely fine though. Fuck those guys, am I right? And for those who don't know, to put it bluntly, cis is like normal essentially. I think cis means same side in Latin, whereas trans means other side. Cisgender meaning having the same gender as of birth, and trans meaning having the opposite gender. Which by that explanation also implies that there's only 2 genders, because the opposite of a man is a woman and vice versa. I don't know why I'm explaining this, you guys probably already know this, let's move on. Now this topic reminded me of a conversation I had with a woman I knew in my undergrad. She made a remark about how you can't be racist to white people, and I thought that was kind of silly, so I responded. Yeah, I don't think that's how racism works, you don't just get to pick and choose who gets affected by it. And then she started explaining about how white people aren't systematically oppressed, meaning you can't be racist towards them, which doesn't make any sense, because even if that was the case, that's not how racism works. You ever go to like East St. Louis or maybe even fucking, I don't know, Englewood because it's more well known? Well, they will just fucking murder you for being white. As much as the media doesn't broadcast it because it doesn't fit their narrative, it definitely does exist. Moral of the story, if you're white, just don't go there. Actually, I don't recommend anyone go there, regardless of race. Moral of the story, just don't live in Illinois to begin with. Things to do in Illinois, fucking leave. But I guess it's still better than New York or Cali. Anyway, so I googled the definition of racism in front of her, and would you look at that? Discrimination against a person based on their race. There's nothing about which races in particular this applies to. That'd be stupid because racism is a general concept. And then she started explaining the history, white guilt, and a bunch of other bullshit. It should also be noted that she herself was a skinny bisexual white woman with dyed hair, just so you're getting the picture. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. The whole victim card scheme doesn't work on me. I don't give a fuck what your ancestors' history was. You're not a slave and I'm not a slave owner, which means I have no obligation to kneel to you since I've never done anything to directly affect you in that way. So how about you quit using your ancestors' suffering as a victim card and shove it up your ass? Now, I didn't say exactly that to her face, obviously. I rephrased what I said in a much more presentable form as to not have a meeting with the dean over such a trivial discussion. But my point being, these people are so so fucking warped in their worldview that they honestly believe that hate speech is skewed to only particular groups. All that tells me is that you believe these quote-unquote protected groups are so weak-minded that they can't fend for themselves. Like, doesn't that kinda sound fucked up, constantly having Big Brother watching over you so no one can hurt your precious feelings? If anything, I'd say that's more insulting than the fuckwits who are trying to target you. The reason I don't support the banning of hate speech is because it's not only against the First Amendment, which allows everyone from all viewpoints to express their opinions. You might then be asking, why don't we just ban obvious hate speech like racism? And that begs the question of, what do you consider racist? It varies person to person, which is why you can never limit hate speech without limiting free speech, because everyone has a different tolerance level when it comes to it. When you cater this censorship to the biggest pussies on the internet, it severely limits what discussions can actually be had. When you can label almost anything as hate speech, basing it off of nothing but your feelings, you can suppress anyone who has an opposing argument regardless of whether it's hateful or not. The way I see it, if you have to resort to suppressing your opposition rather than beating them through wit, then doesn't that mean they were right all along? And that includes Kanye talking about Hitler or whatever. Not saying I agree with him, but simply removing his ability to express himself definitely isn't fighting his argument. When you're in control of what people can view, especially when it comes to restricting those against you, who gets to decide what is hateful or not? The advertisers? The government? The 1%? Just something to keep in the back of your mind for later down the line. Anyways, that's all I wanted to discuss for today. If you enjoyed and haven't subscribed, I'm gonna find your address and throw a pipe bomb through your window. Haha, just kidding, we don't have that kind of budget here on the Serial Channel, so we'll be throwing napalm instead.